You ask me why I love her? Well, give me time. I'll explain. You seen a Kansas sunset or an Arizona rain? Have you drifted on a bayou down Louisiana way? Have you watched the cold fog drifting over San Francisco Bay? Have you heard a Bob White calling in the Carolina pines, or heard the bellow of a diesel at the Appalachia mines? Does the call of the Niagara thrill you when you hear her waters roar? You look with awe and wonder at her Massachusetts shore, where men who braved a hard new world first stepped on Plymouth's rock. And do you think of them when you stroll along a New York City dock? Have you seen a snowflake drifting in the Rockies way up high? Have you seen the sun come blazing down from a bright Nevada sky? You hail to the Columbia as she rushes to the sea, or bow your head at Gettysburg, our struggle to be free?
1, 2, 3, 4. If it looks like we're wearing the same clothes this time, it's because we are.
We have been sitting here for a week.
We've been sitting here for a week. Or Greg was here a couple hours ago, and we just decided to kind of double up on this one because we can and we should, and we're going to be busy, so we're going to be...
Thanks for pulling back the curtain. Jeez. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 44 Minutes.
Welcome to the show! So...
That was un-American of you.
That was un-American of me. You know what else is decidedly un-American is apparently anything John Wayne doesn't like or agree with.
And especially when you produce an album that is called America, Why I Love Her, you get to choose what is American.
You know, we've been trying for like the past 10 minutes to see if we can do like John Wayne impressions.
Oh no,
I don't think we can.
I'm not even going to try on camera.
A little. Come on.
You first. The best part is that we couldn't even bring ourselves to say anything other than really just John Wayne.
John Wayne.
And then there's John Wayne.
That's not
John even Wayne. Close.
Mine doesn't sound that great either. John Wayne.
No.
John Wayne. Actor I like, shitty human being.
Yeah, this is... I mean, most people know who John Wayne is. He's a very, popular actor through the 1930s to the 1960s, even 1970s. Known for his westerns, his war movies, being the paradigm of Americana.
Yeah, well, people think American actors, like, John Wayne comes up a lot, because, I mean, cowboy movies, America, John Wayne is pretty...
These terms all come together.
Yeah, like it's. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think to a point, John Wayne shaped a lot of people's ideas of Americans.
And the whole concept of freedom and doing things your way. And he was always an independent thinker.
And an anti-communist.
Yes.
A really vicious, horrible anti-communist.
He grew up in the Los Angeles area. He went to Glendale High School. He's a graduate of USC. Go Trojans.
He's a Western. Too.
Yes.
Sorry, I just distracted from the
No
USC
problem.
thing.
No problem. But it's all about... He grew up in the area. Got right into an acting career. He actually was on the USC football team and then got injured and went into acting as a backup. And because of that, he pretty rapidly got to a level of being the lead in a lot of B movies, and then all of a sudden into very important lead roles.
Well, Stagecoach. I mean, Stagecoach is one of my favorite movies. My voice cracked. Yeah. Stagecoach is one of my favorite movies. But I'm so sorry if that hurt your ears. But no. Stagecoach is a really good movie. It has a lot of problems. Obviously, its depiction of Native Americans is, kind of gross. But it is a really good movie, and it is like an important movie, and built up a lot of ideas of how like modern action is framed and stuff like that, and reshaped westerns. The Stagecoach chase scene is amazing. But John Wayne does an incredible job. But there's this great shot where he's introduced in the film, where you hear like a shot off camera, and everyone like looks, and then everyone on the Stagecoach just looks, and then it's, here's John Wayne. It's like full shot, it's Academy ratio, so it's like that. Then it zooms all the way up to about here, I think. Maybe you see some of his arms, but definitely like right close up, a good shot of his face. And it's this whole construction of like, here's your star. There's such a built-in thing into Stagecoach where they're just like, John Wayne, everybody.
That kind of academic style of here's the person and then here's the portrait.
I guess, but it's the most Hollywood. It's the most clear like example of, I think, a Hollywood star moment where they're like really like the camera tells you this guy.
And what year was Stagecoach?
I can't remember what year. It was definitely in the 40s. And it's good. Like, do watch it. If in case you have a Hulu account, actually, it's on there. Not that I'm necessarily promoting Hulu, though I use Hulu and I like Hulu, and there's Seinfeld on it, but that's a different story.
The hyphen, Webster's dictionary defines, is a symbol used to divide a compound word or a single word. So it seems to me that when a man calls himself an Afro-American, a Mexican-American, Italian-American, an Irish-American, Jewish-American, what he's saying is, I'm a divided American. Well, we all came from other places, different creeds, different races, to form a nation, to become as one. Yet look at the harm a line has done. A simple little line, and yet as divisive as a line can get. A crooked cross the Nazis flew, and the Russian hammer and sickle, too. Time bombs in the lives of man. But none of these could ever fan the flames of hatred faster than the hyphen. The Russian hammer built a wall that locks men's hearts from freedom's call. The crooked cross flew overhead above 20 million tragic dead. Among them, men from this great nation who died for freedom's preservation. A hyphen is a line that's small. It can be a bridge or be a wall. A bridge can save you lots of time. A wall you always have to climb.
So what we should talk about, though...
An interesting thing talking about Westerns and movies like that is that while we do look at them as being American classics and their film... In the history of filmography, their importance
history of filmography, sorry.
Yeah,
you can just say film.
The history of film. Yeah, that thing. They play an important role, but obviously their depictions of different groups and different people have been influenced by the mindset of the time. And that's where John Wayne as a person comes in. As we mentioned before, he was a staunch anti-communist despite growing up claiming to be a socialist.
It was a socialist. I hate to say it, it's one of those things that, like, being like pretty left of left, there's always that fear. It's like, oh man, am I gonna grow up and be like a suburban Republican dad? Like
that rubber band effect.
But it's just like, I don't know, like even I thought I was a socialist for 2 seconds. I'm not, but that's just because I like some tenets of capitalism. But that doesn't mean I'm magically like a right winger or anything. Realizing you're not a socialist doesn't mean that you're just like, well, I guess I need to turn in socialists.
Yeah.
And support, the House House Un-American Activities Committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
HUAC.
HUAC. He was a big supporter of HUAC.
And if you look back in the history books,
if anyone calls it HUAC, sorry.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
we will from here on out.
HUAC.
He was, I would say, probably directly responsible for a number of actors, actresses, and Hollywood individuals losing their careers because of
the blacklisting. He actively participated in. If this is if here's a bit of film history. If you don't know this, there was definitely a point in time where this is pre-MPAA. I think.
Look at early 50s.
This is actually pre-McCarthy too, but there's a point in time where they were just like they wanted to sort of push out communist sentiment.
All under the whole idea of the Red Scare.
Yeah. Basically being like, Hollywood shouldn't be supporting the spreading of socialist ideals through screenwriting. Notable people who were blacklisted, Dalton Trumbo, who wrote Johnny Got His Gun, which is an incredible movie if you've never seen it.
Lucille Ball, I believe.
Really? I didn't know
was
that.
On that list. Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. I want to say wasn't Ronald Reagan on that list for a very short time.
Maybe. I guess I don't know about that, but
we will Ronnie, confirm more information
right
down here, more names and the like.
Yeah.
But it was very pervasive. There were not just were there people who lost their careers because they were thought to be communists. There were people who lost their careers because they refused to cooperate. So you had people being threatened with, you'll never work in this town again if you don't give us the names of 5 communists that you know.
There's a particular example. There's the screenwriter who was it the screenwriter or director of not Red River. There's a particular Western movie that was famous for was it The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance? I don't think it was. There was a Western that came out that won a bunch of awards and is one of those things where it's a Western movie that people like so much and is so important to them that I think every American president, there's this whole tradition of them watching the movie and thinking about it in terms of foreign policy and foreign relations, and both conservative presidents and liberal presidents alike have been a big fan of this.
Interesting.
And like I said, the director or the writer worked on the movie. I am sorry I'm forgetting it, but this is just a bit of film knowledge that's coming to my head right now. Was one of the people who was blacklisted, and John Wayne was just this movie is the most un-American thing ever. And the results, and as a result, created Rio Bravo, which was a direct response, because that movie was about a sheriff going to his town asking for help to fight to fight some impending kind of villain. Western setup, but the idea being that the sheriff is negotiating with people and trying to bring everyone together, which is admittedly the kind of thing a socialist would turn into a Western movie. Not that I mind. I like the idea of a socialist Western movie. I like parts of socialism.
Shh. John Wayne is listening.
John Wayne's listening. Oh God. And Rio Bravo is a really good movie in its own right, and actually inspired one of my favorite movies, which is Assault on Precinct 13, the John Carpenter film, which was remade into a movie that was ignorable as far as I know. But a remake of a remake. But yeah. And Rio Bravo is the exact opposite. It's about the sheriff heroically refusing any assistance.
Rugged American
individualism, which is John Wayne's,
entire MO.
Stuff that makes for good movies, especially good Westerns, is complete bullshit logic in reality.
Oh yeah, but that's the fantasy of the movie industry.
No, that's true. That it's just
or I guess the fantasy of storytelling.
That's the fantasy of storytelling, but the idea, it's we like the cowboy and we like the sheriff and we like all these things and we like our clearly defined good guys and bad guys and things like that. But it's rugged American individualism is stupid. But so maybe we should actually talk about the record and what it is about this that kind of offends us so. Besides the fact that I have a little bit of a grudge against John Wayne for all these reasons we've mentioned.
Well, I mean, it's gonna take a while to really get through everything. I mean, this album is a very strong, representation of loving America and true patriotism. And the irony of it is that he didn't write a single thing. He just acted it out and basically read it.
Basically, got his like. I mean, just look at.
Hey, looky there. On. That's why I didn't want to get into the whole John Wayne thing.
But just like, here's this. You're probably gonna see a big picture of this when we cut away. But just like, oof.
Yeah, we'll be right back because we've got a lot.
We've got a lot to say.
Okay.
We hear a lot about war or hurricanes that hit our shore. We hear a lot about hard times and a good deal more about the crimes that make the front pages of our news. But all that does is sing the blues about America. Now, what are the good things in our lives about the men who love their wives, who take their kids when they go fishing, spend their working days just wishing to make things better? A fireman who climbs a tree and sets a little kitten free. A policeman who helps you cross the avenue. A man who stops when you're broken down and asks if you need a lift to town, or simply says, "Friend, what can I do?" Have you stopped at a grocery store and watched a kid who's bit off more than his 5 or 10 cent piece can chew? He needs just 2 cents or 3 to get that soda pop, you see, and you get that feeling? Why not? And you come through. And how about on a Sunday morning, the sun's up high and the day is morning and church bells break the stillness in the sky. All your neighbors and your friends climb in the family car again and go to church, never question why. Then you look.
Welcome back.
Yes.
We're here. Really quick note: the movie we were trying to think of the name of that is you were saying
it was High Noon, and John Wayne called it un-American and said that he did not regret running the writer Carl Foreman out of the country. And the movie was supposedly an allegory about Hollywood blacklisting, which I guess makes it kind of socialist.
And not just a response to an unorthodox method of gathering people secretly and, paranoia, really.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Back to the record. And the reason we're holding off on getting right into this is because there's a lot to say. This album was released in 1973 and is most likely a response to the public outcry against John Wayne that arose due to a Playboy article or Playboy interview published in 1971, where he really lays out for the public eye some
very ugly truths about.
Yeah, you hear about celebrities and people having personal beliefs that they don't share as much, or they keep.
Gary Oldman had one with Playboy where he said some nasty stuff about Jewish people. To tell you the truth, I don't even think it was that bad. I think he was just pissed off and talking about political correctness in Hollywood, but like that's not so bad.
I was gonna say, you compare it to something like this. Where John Wayne outright says that he believes blacks shouldn't hold positions of power until they've been sufficiently educated.
No. He said the words, "I believe in white supremacy." And
quote.
Or something. We'll put the quote like right there for you to read. We're also planning on posting a link to the
You're going to have a link to it here in the video. You're going to have a link in the description.
Actually, I realized you can't actually link. You can't. It has to be internal links.
Yeah, true. That's right.
But yeah. But we're gonna post a link to it, and for those of you listening, we'll post a link on our podcast version. But just go look it up, read it. if you're a John Wayne fan, I'm so sorry for what you're about to read, but all the same, you should probably know what kind of a big piece of shit he was.
I mean, it's kind of important, and there's that interesting difference of, and we'll go into it a little bit more, the difference between the persona of an actor on stage versus the persona of the person. And, you know, on top of the blacks, he believed that the Native Americans, there should be no regret for taking the entire country from them, that it was for our survival that we did that. So, you know, survival of the fittest, I guess. He held staunch opinions against gays. He was a known chauvinist. I believe it was once quoted that he was asked during an interview, a public interview, that how do you feel about women in the workplace and you know, making their way in the world? And he said, women can do whatever they want as long as they're home in time to cook me dinner. And it just gets deeper and deeper. And so this seems like the kind of thing that's a response of, I love America. I'm here for America. Let's read some of it.
Yeah. By the way, we gotta show you the full.
Yo, yes.
So here's the cover. Here's, you know, the reverse. On the inside, they've done two interesting things. One, every instead of like the lyrics being on the sleeve. Usually, most spoken word things like this don't have it. All the records are here. American flag here in just the same position it is right here. But the interesting thing is that the actual opening to get to the record itself is in here. So you have to be confronted by all this writing, where it openly says that John Wayne wrote none of this, by the way.
Oh yeah, this was all written and produced and composed by John Mitchum primarily, who was
John Mitchum, Howard Barnes, music by Billy Liebert and Les Taylor.
John Mitchum you might know because he was a character actor,
and he was related to Robert Mitchum, who's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
Night of the Hunter is a really good movie, by the way. If you ever get the chance, do watch it. It's kind of scary. Robert Mitchum plays a preacher who kills who kills widows for their money.
Whew.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a rough movie. Anyway, moving back to how John Wayne is an asshole. So yes, go back to the lyrics.
Yes, and so you have things like, "Why are you marching, son?" He says, "Why are you marching, son? I'd really like to know. Is it because of Valley Forge, or perhaps the Alamo, or one if by land, two if by sea? A trumpet's call, the will to be free."
And it's just like whatever John Mitchum's, and obviously John Mitchum's responsible for the all-American, like heart-pounding kinds of things. But I think I don't know.
I think one of the most telling pieces on this record would be the hyphen. Yes.
Again, John Mitchum wrote it, so we're disappointed in you, John Mitchum, for having been involved. You too, Howard Barnes, since you also helped write it. But
yes,
John Wayne spoke it. I'm fairly certain this is something that John Wayne believes in fully.
And it's this one I think is probably the most direct response to the interview because it actually does address different races. And it does so by saying that people who identify themselves as being African American or Mexican American or
Irish American, Jewish
anything before American, yeah, I know, right? They are putting something between themselves and America, and that is the hyphen.
Yeah, and it's just like that's such horseshit. It's just the whole point of saying it's people. Look, any person who comes from any background that isn't kind of like a waspy, like American background of privilege, to a point, whiteness has become this awful, weird thing in its own right that, you know, but it's just like anyone who's come from any background of color, any background of a lesser social status because of their, you know, ethnic or social or cultural makeup, understands the importance of things like, no, we all understand that we're Americans. We have no illusions whether or not we're Americans. You know,
but there's a respect here. Yeah, there's a respect of your cultural background. But
the idea being, it's you want to be identified as an American and as this. It has nothing to do with placing a barrier between. By saying I'm a Jewish American, I'm not saying, you know, I'm saying I'm an American. I'm different from some Americans, but I'm an American. I'm not intentionally creating a fucking wall, you know.
As far as this goes, It literally makes a comparison of...
It makes a comparison of the hyphen to the swastika and the sickle and hammer.
In fact, going so far as to even say that it's worse because the hyphen is a barrier and a bridge that controls and keeps you from being a true American. Let me see if I can find a section on that. Let's see. Used as a bridge, it can span all the differences of man. Being free in mind and soul should be our most important goal. If you use the hyphen as a wall, you'll make your life mean and small. An American is a special breed who people come to who are in need. Yeah, and the language too is also really difficult on this.
It's really fucking stupid. Sorry, it's like the worst poetry. Sorry.
They came to her that they might find a world where they'd have peace of mind, where men are equal and something more, standing taller than they stood before.
Yeah, but then the whole point of the hyphen thing is that right, this is what I was trying to say. Anyone who comes from any background like that, everyone does everything they can to try to deny your background. I mean, that's it. So you have to be able to say, I am this and I am an American, and it's just like using it to build a wall, and it's just like, it's not about building a wall. If you're treated like shit, you're gonna respond.
Why are you marching, son? I'd really like to know. Is it because of Valley Forge, or perhaps the Alamo? Or one if by land, two if by sea? A trumpet's call, the will to be free? And what of a man who stood straight and tall, who wept silent tears when he saw brave men fall? No matter, no difference, the blue or the gray, all were his brothers. How often he'd pray. And what of Antietam, that now peaceful stream where the water blood-red glittered and gleamed? Appomattox, Chickamauga, Vicksburg, Bull Run, Cumberland, Gettysburg, and then Washington. Why are you marching, son? In Flanders Field, how proud were they whose forms beneath the poppies lay. Men who saw Verdun and died at the Marne, Soissons, and those who tried the fearful foe at Chateau Thierry, who fought and bled.
He was such an American and such an important figure in Americana and anti-communism.
Oh, it's particularly in anti-communism, if I know what you're going to get to.
Yes. He actually was a target of assassination, multiple assassination attempts by Joseph Stalin.
Yep.
That in itself was kind of mind-blowing for us.
It's kind of weird because at the end of the day, like, it confirms this thing where it's like the communists want to destroy America. They want to kill John Wayne. And I'm just like, well, I guess. I mean, it's pretty dumb. Then again, Stalin was pretty fucking crazy, and
that's, I think, kind of
was an absolute psycho, committed mass genocides, against his own people.
And that's where it all kind of spurs from, is that in his last 5 years serving as the leader of Russia, he went off his rails, and one of those rails was going after John Wayne. And there's a whole article. We'll probably have a link to that one too.
There's an article that talks about a book that was published about John Wayne, where they talk about multiple assassination attempts. So some of this might have to be verified, but I at least believe that Joseph Stalin did want to kill John Wayne.
It's a very plausible, action that he took.
It doesn't stand so far outside of something Joseph Stalin would have done.
Exactly.
Although I'm kind of surprised that, like, he wasn't able to kill John Wayne, yet he was able to successfully kill Trotsky, which I always thought was, or well, not always, but it's just like, well, in context, it's just like John Wayne's some, like, American movie actor. Like, I don't know.
Which, I mean, maybe that's why it was difficult.
I guess just there were more people who were more willing to support, the death of Trotsky. That's a much more complicated thing.
We have
time to get into.
Deep
if we find any records about, like, Soviet Russia or anything like that, or Trotsky maybe,
send them in.
So send them in. We'll talk about that. But yeah,
it's a very, very convoluted situation, and one of the things that I tried to compare this to is the situation that we've had, and in two different realms. We have the current situation that we're going through right now with Bill Cosby and his
or the sort of the way we like look at like celebrities when we realize
the general question of what do you do when a celebrity betrays you, basically, with the image that they've publicly allowed to go out there versus who they are as an actual person. And Bill Cosby, case in point, has been the all-American dad and been
an icon and like an important like kind of healthy figure to like so many households and stuff like that.
And then all of a sudden we find out the whole time he's going around giving quaaludes to women and raping them. And it's one of those things of you can't look at the situation the same way. You be quiet. We aren't done.
We are talking about some heavy shit, phone.
And this doesn't even compare to the situation like that. Yeah. Yes, it's not a great way to conduct yourself and not great things to say about people, but in terms of actually taking action against others like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing. Like this comes up a lot, and we're
and I guess the lesser sort of version of that is then how a lot of sports celebrities, especially in the NFL.
Actually, I think that with the sports thing is a little bit different, just because we were talking about this earlier, in that the Bill Cosby thing, it's that we didn't want as a culture to believe that was true, and now that we basically know that 100%, I don't know how much people. I'm more than willing to believe that unfortunately he was involved in every case that's come forward against him. But the fact that now he is confirmed, some of that kind of stuff is just like, well, now we 100% know. It's not that there was ever. I'm not saying like I didn't, wasn't supportive or did not believe when that many people come forward at once.
Even if it were just one of them were telling the truth, that in itself is enough.
Yeah, that's enough. But the sports thing is interesting because it's the industry protects like athletes who like commit heinous acts like murder, sexual assault, and stuff like that. And
I mean, look at Michael Vick right now. He went from a very difficult situation, very and there of course are people who will never forgive him for
what he did,
basically training dogs to kill each other. But he's a successful quarterback.
Yeah,
now.
The whole thing. Looking at the Michael Vick situation, I think it's interesting that people got so angry at Michael Vick when it's just like, I hate to say it, for as heinous as all the dog stuff he was doing, there are like some major athletes who have committed like way worse acts who are not receiving any kind of public punishment or chastisement or anything like that.
It's because this happens all the time.
But it's just like, I'm to a point at least willing to believe that Michael Vick he served his time, and I think he was rehabilitated. That's the whole point, I guess, of a prison system, really. You want to believe that it's still plausible that someone can be rehabilitated in the prison system as opposed to just throwing them in a cell and having them rot there.
And just like the previous discussion we just had, there's a very deep philosophical debate about that we just don't have time for right now.
Because we're basically out. But it's just...
Final thoughts.
I mean, I sort of... And I guess this just ends with the whole celebrity thing. Look, John Wayne was a huge piece of shit. And even knowing that, I still like his movies, which makes me feel weird. I still like him as an actor. It's one of those things where, like... You can still like a John Wayne movie and acknowledge like, oh, he was a terrible human being. I'm really hoping he didn't hurt anyone, because that might change it for me. But it's just like,
I think that's a very dicey gray area because of the whole anti-communist.
He's also potentially a draft dodger, which
didn't even touch on that.
We'll get on that. But I guess the big thing is that like this is like laughably, hysterically weird and hyper-American and such jingoistic bullshit, which, as you should know, is typical of John Wayne. Don't look at this as like, John Wayne is a great American and he made this record about how he loves America.
Look at this as somebody's trying to save face and prove that he is one of the people because he said some things and that he truly believes some things that are just absolutely representing everything that is wrong in this country.
Yeah. And I guess final word. Just because we're shitting on John Wayne and having a decent time of doing it doesn't mean that it's not 100% true that he was a crappy person. Again, click that link and read that interview. Not even joking. All of that was real.
Yeah, it's that's what it comes down to, is judge for yourself, comment, let us know what you think, tell us directly. We want to hear, because we have a problem with him as a person. Yes, we do enjoy his movies and his acting persona, but as an individual, he was a terrible human being in terms of understanding other people's rights.
Who has a really terrible airport named after him.
Yeah, well, I guess it's really appropriate.
Well, it's a nice airport, but it's difficult for people to land in. Anyway, goodbye.
That's the worst part about him.
That's the worst part about him, the airport. And if you would you like to?
You really gonna make me do this?
Do it.
Do you want me to do it as John Wayne?
Yes, I do.
I can't even begin.
Add partner in there. Just do it now. Just 1, 2, 3.
See you on the flip side, partner.
Did he ever say partner? I don't know. And that's the end of the episode.
Thank you very much for sticking around and watching the whole thing.
Like, subscribe, comment, click down below the thingy.
Exactly. And then click the other thing for the other thingy.
And then watch our other videos, and then watch the next video, and watch the last video, so watch our things.
We promise they're very similar, but very enjoyable.
Have a good one. Bye.